Hey, chiropractors, welcome to Modern Chiropractic Mastery with your host, Dr. Kevin Christie, where we discuss the latest in marketing, business, and professional growth with some of the leading experts in the industry. Hey, docs, welcome to another episode of Modern Chiropractic Mastery. This is your host, Dr. Kevin Christie, and today I have a unique episode with Dr. Brian Strump, and I reached out to him. I really enjoy his Facebook posts. They are insightful, make you question things, and they are entertaining a lot of times. And so I had reached out to him. I was like, hey, I want to pick like 4 or 5 of your Facebook posts and discuss them. And the posts that I did pick were business related. He's got a great business mind, chiropractor, but also owns a really thriving big gym as well. And so we dove into 4 of his Facebook posts and what that mean and what the thoughts were. And, it went a lot better than I expected. Didn't know how it would go just based on my idea of picking apart some of his Facebook posts, but really good and a lot of good business insights from that. Before we do dive into those 4 Facebook posts, if you are a chiropractic student looking for a preceptorship, my clinic in Boca Raton, Florida is looking for preceptor students. The fall of 2024 would be great, or even if you're getting into Q1 of 2025, reach out. You can email me at Dr. Christie, so Dr. Christie, Christie. So that's Dr. Christie at healthfitchiro.com. If you are interested, we look for ones that have a desire in a sports chiropractic practice, have a little bit of rehab background, and then we could chat about the rest. So reach out to me at drchristie at healthfitchiro.com. Without further ado, here is my interview with Dr. Brian Strump. Before we get to today's show, I'm excited to tell you about a great product that will help your patients find quicker relief and help you get better outcomes. Stop Pain Clinical is a great way to provide a safe, effective pain relief alternative to NSAIDs and opioids while you diagnose and treat the underlying cause. It works on contact to provide fast, long-lasting pain relief from sprains, strains, bruises, arthritis, muscle aches, joint and back pain. How does it do that? Stop Pain Clinical has 10% menthol plus MSM and glucosamine. Great for joint pain. It is formulated with penetration enhancers and skin conditioners, so it works fast, feels great, and it is sweat resistance. And also the spray is awesome with kinesiology tape, so your athletes will love it. You can just spray that right on before you put the tape. Phenomenal combination. They also have this great new migraine and headache relief topical. I know I've been using it. My wife's been using it. You place a little bit of the cream right onto that deep occipital as the base of the skull. Really helps give you some relief from that unrelenting headache and migraine. So great for your patients. You can learn more about Stop Pain Clinical at stopa.in/MCM, and you get a free intro pack of Stop Pain Clinical products. Again, that's stopa.in/MCM. Great news too is Stop Pain Clinical topical analgesics are available exclusively through chiropractors and other healthcare professionals, so they have another great reason to visit you and tell their friends. All right. Welcome to the show, Brian. I really appreciate your time today. I'm excited to have you on. This is going to be a little bit of a unique episode. Before we dive into that, tell us about yourself personally and professionally.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me first, Kevin. This is awesome. I'm excited. I currently I'm living in Fort Mill, South Carolina, which is a suburb of Charlotte. I graduated from chiropractic school from Logan in 2003 and kind of been practicing. And I started with a group for about 3 years in Cleveland, Ohio, doing mostly PI and workers' comp. Then my wife and I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina in 2007. So working for a different group that we worked to put smaller offices inside global gyms, Bally's, Lifetime, or Gold's Gym, stuff like that, up and down the East Coast. And then in 2007, I was introduced to CrossFit by a guy that was in that group. And then June 2008. I told my wife, I wanted to open up a gym and put a doctor's office together. And so June 2008 is when I stopped working with that company and I kind of went all in, just like figuring out what I was going to do. And April 2009 is when we collected our first dollar doing that. We had since moved from our original space. Our original space was, we had about 3,200 square feet and about 1,600 square feet each for the gym and doctor's office in Charlotte. In 2012, we started renting this 12,000 square feet. So it's about 2,000 square feet of office and 10,000 square feet of of gym. Um, and then recently bought that 12,000 square feet 2 or 3 months ago. And then right now in the office, it's me working part time. We just got a physical therapist that's going to rent a room. We had a chiropractor with us for 5 years prior that just left, and me and one other person up there, and then the gym.
Yeah, that's
So
cool.
it's great.
And I know you've had a background with Two Brain Business consulting, right? How's
Yeah,
that been
yeah,
for you?
it's awesome. I've been working with them. Chris Cooper, the owner, I met him in 2013 when I was kind of at this fork in the road, I guess. I had the doctor's office and the gym, and both were growing. We were open for 4 years. I knew that I wasn't going to be able to do like both of them as good as I wanted to do.
Yep.
So I had to make a choice whether it was going to be like the gym or the doctor's office, and I chose the gym for a number of reasons that maybe we'll get into later. But I chose the gym for a number of reasons. So I still practice, but
Mhm.
I really spent most of my time delving into optimizing the efficiency of the gym and kind of growing that. And then 5 years later, after working with them, which I still work with them like my staff does, I kind of went to the other side of mentoring. Mostly gyms, let's say like 90% of my clients are gym owners of some capacity, whether like larger global gyms or a franchise gym, like 9 rounds F45, something like that. And then a couple of chiropractors, physical therapists that want to do something similar to what we've done in terms of like most of those doctors have a gym, have a doctor's office, and they want to add like the gym portion. So I've
Yeah.
kind of worked with some of those people as well. It's awesome. Just teaching and talking about it every month, it just kind of keeps myself kind of sharp and learning. So it's been really like selfishly, it's super beneficial for me as well.
Yeah, and it seems like you guys are doing a lot of great work at Two Brain for gyms and gym owners, and it's really cool. And I think a early connection that you and I have was with Josh Satterley, and he's got his model. You've obviously gone big on the gym, right? So whereas a clinic gym hybrid might be equal parts clinic and gym, or more clinic and some gym, you're big gym, some clinic, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
It's a good way. I mean, obviously, it's growing for you exponentially, which is great. And then on the outside, I mentioned this is a unique episode because ultimately, what really stood out for me, because we were just friends on Facebook. We've never met before. And, I've got quite a few friends on Facebook, and so do you. But some people's posts just stand out to me. And I was like, I got to get that guy on the podcast, even though we've never talked. And I didn't have a huge understanding of your model, but you've had some really good posts over the years. And so I reached out to you, hey, could I cherry pick like four of your posts and let's just talk about them on a podcast? And so you were kind enough to oblige that. So that's what we're going to do today.
Yeah, it's awesome. When I got it, I was like, told my wife, I was like, "You're never gonna believe what he said he wanted to talk about." And she's like, "Politics, religion, this, that, chiropractic, gym." I said, "No." What I write on social media. She's like, "Oh my god," because I want to think of myself as pretty practical and level headed and more pragmatic than emotional.
Yeah.
So sometimes I post, and some of these people like lose it, right? But I
Yeah.
really just try to post like something that's thought provoking to think, like start a conversation. Um, I don't think of myself as somebody that I'm not going to be able to like be friends with somebody because you think differently.
Mhm.
But I mean, boy, there are a lot of people out there that don't think like me.
Yes. And that's why I want to have
Yeah,
you on. But we're going to keep it to the business side. It was
yeah,
funny
yeah,
when
yeah,
you,
yeah. Of course. Well, yeah,
when
and
you,
even that stuff. Yeah, it's great.
yeah, but when I had sent you the screenshots of your post that I wanted to talk about. You're like, okay, good. Cause I think you were worried about it. I joked around
I
during
was,
one
yeah,
of,
I would have been pretty surprised if you, and it's not like I do post anything on there that's like super controversial. So I would have been surprised um, if you would have been like, yeah, let's talk about this one. Like, "All right, okay, it's your podcast."
well, I know you've got a background in CrossFit. And when I spoke in Parker the first time, I think it was 2018, I had a kind of a joke in there about, we were talking about social media and all that. And I said, it's okay to be somewhat polarizing, but don't be too polarizing. You probably don't want to talk too much about religion, politics, and CrossFit. And everybody laughed. And so I had sent that
It's
to
true.
you when you were happy that we were going to be focusing on business. So yeah, we try not to talk about religion, politics, and CrossFit.
Yeah,
Too controversial on this podcast.
agree. I
So
agree.
let's dive into the first one. I'll just
Surely.
read it and then we'll go from there. If you want a life where you get to do what you want every day, you'll need to live a life doing a lot of things you don't want to do. One of the things that I appreciate about your posts is they're to the point, and they're thought provoking. And so, what are your thoughts on that one?
You know, I don't. I mean, I'm 45. I don't know how old you are, Kevin.
44,
I'm assuming.
44.
Okay, I was gonna
Yeah.
say I was gonna guess around that, say within like 3 to 4 years. It's like when I grew up, I always had to work. I never felt like if I didn't work, I was gonna get something.
Mhm.
And we didn't have the internet, right? So that was helpful that we didn't have the internet. But now I feel like in the last 6 or 7 years, there's people that are writing and sharing about how easy running a business is,
Mhm.
how easy entrepreneurship is, how much money they make, and which is like 99% not true, right? I'm just trying to get you to buy like my ebook or something. And then there's a lot of people, and I think it like 10x over COVID over like the last 3 years over that time when and I'm not I don't really know the reason why, but it's like a lot of people would say, maybe not necessarily to me, but it's like, oh, it must be nice, or oh, I wish I could do that, or kind of things like that to somebody to like make you feel bad, but they don't see all the work that you do,
Yeah.
right? Or it's like, you know, I know a guy here that his name's Bruce, and he was taking pictures for people in our gym in like 2016. Had another job and now he's taking pictures of all sorts of famous people. He's at the Super Bowl, he's at the NBA All-Star game, he's at the CrossFit games. And like, I knew this dude when I was probably paying him $200 with 3 hours to take pictures of our gym,
Yeah.
right? And some people I'm sure would be like, oh yeah, you got lucky, it must be nice, right? Because you're not necessarily posting about all the shitty time. I don't know if I could curse on here, but all
Yeah,
the
you
bad
can.
times,
You're from New
all
York. You're
you
from
know,
New York too, so I mean,
yeah,
if it's
all the bad times and all, like, everybody's using social media to post about, oh, how great stuff is. They don't really show, like, I was up all night, I didn't sleep, I was up early in the morning, I'm doing kind of all this stuff, and everybody's like, "Oh, yeah, I want to open up a business." It's like, "Why?" They look at all these people. It's like, it's a big step, and a lot of and whether it's sport or whatever, I got a 12-year-old daughter that I'm trying to teach, like,
Mhm.
you don't just wish your way to being good at something. Like, you have to do it. It's not good. You have to do all the things like you don't want, even just being like the being like the owner of your gym. Like, when I walk by a piece of paper on the ground, I can't expect my staff to pick it up if I'm not picking it up.
Yeah.
If I'm not gonna make the call or do this, I can't expect other people to do it. The only way other people are gonna do it, either they're scared of me, so they know if I don't do it, I'm gonna get fired, which is
Mhm.
like not how I lead.
Mhm.
Or like, man, like, he's working his ass off. I saw him cleaning some equipment the other day and plunging a toilet. And yeah, that's not like my ideal job, but if I'm there and it needs to be done, I'm not going to be like, "Hey, Kevin, can you do me a favor? There's toilet bowl needs to be plunged." Unless your job is like toilet bowl plunger. But let's assume it's
Mhm.
not, and your job is also to be coaching and doing other things. Like, I need to be doing those things. You need to be doing those things, so other people will eventually help you out to make and create whatever it is that like we want to be doing. And I just feel like a lot of people aren't now, right? A lot of people aren't willing to work.
They aren't, and, it's, interesting, like, I mentioned I've been with Strategic Coach for a while, and they have a concept called front stage, backstage. They usually apply it to businesses, right? So, or they use the play analogy. You see the play, but you don't see the backstage, that the dress rehearsal and the costume designer and the makeup artist and the writers and producers. You don't see all that. That you just see the front stage, and that's what you see in the gym when you walk in. If it's really nice, or all that, you don't see all the hard work behind it. And it's the same way with someone's, let's just call it professional success. Is if you get to a certain level, like you and I are in our mid 40s now, we got probably 20 plus years underneath our belt. Things have gone pretty good for you, pretty good for me. They see the front stage of it, but they don't see the backstage, which was like you're talking about, the things that you have to do over the years and day to day to make it happen. And they, ultimately will see chiropractors or gym owners doing really well and think that they just want that right away because they got the degree, right? And that's just not how it works, obviously.
And it's like every day, like someone's like, oh, maybe, today work sucked or this happened or that. I was like, every day work sucks,
Yeah.
right? Like I love it because I could control it, but like I never had like 4 days in a row where I was like, man, I'm coasting and everything is amazing.
Yeah.
Like it's infinitely harder than, I was mentioned before that I just kind of came into a partnership with this other gym, and he's
Mhm.
been working with me for 7 years, but I've been trying since we decided on buying this. Like he'll come to me with something huffing and puffing. I was like,
Yeah.
decision you're going to make soon. You gotta like, somebody's not gonna like you. Somebody's gonna write something bad about you or talk shit to somebody else behind your back. So you just have to be able to be used to that. And it's like,
Mhm.
they just don't, it's just hard to understand because it's not like you're watching a football game. You're like, oh, we could go out and throw a football and wow, football's hard, right? You go play golf and be like, man, it's really hard to be like Tiger Woods. Like, it's really hard to hit a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. Like people, feel like it's much difficult to comprehend how to like run a small business.
Yeah. It's a lot. There's a lot to it. So I love that one because I just think it sums up a lot. And again, yeah, there's some generalities in the sense of the different generations, right? But uh, it's probably like that for a reason. Luckily, I think I've been meeting a lot of people that are bucking that trend. So hopefully, they'll continue to do it. But yeah, you got to do the things that no one else wants to do, and that's what's going to get you to the point where, you could have a level of success and do what you want, right? It's kind of like Tim Ferriss. We'll just kind of last little thing, and then we'll move on to the next one. But Tim Ferriss gets to do a whole lot of things he wants to do right now on his own terms. Part of that's because he doesn't have kids, right? But the but you don't we soon forget what that guy did to get to where he is now, right? Like, that guy put in some work that very few human beings would be able to do. If you ever hear his backstory about the supplement company that he built, the way he wrote his books and lived his books, and like, you just really, very few people would put in what he did, and he arbitraged it. And obviously now he gets to do what he wants, but it wasn't
Like,
pretty
it
for
still
a long
probably
time.
works really hard, right? It's not like he's right. Like it's even then, it's like he's still working hard to do whatever he wants to do next. It's
Mhm.
it's kind of like in some people's DNA.
It is. It is. Let's take a short break for one of our great sponsors, TrackStat. It is a new type of software plugin for your EHR that combines patient communication, marketing, automation, and statistics with patient and employee tracking. Built by chiropractors for chiropractors, it shows your team what to focus on each day. See patient visit habits, missing information, unpaid bills, insurance collection visit average, and more. Great visibility of data so you can focus on filling your office with your best patients. When you can see what your staff and patients are doing or not doing and take action accordingly, your profits naturally grow. Take TrackStat for a test drive in your office with our free trial. Not a techie, no problem, we can help. To get started on your free trial, visit trackstat.org and watch the demo. That is trackstat.org. So, moving on to the next one, and I picked this one out because it was kind of funny. I don't know if you know
Mm.
Greg Crabtree, but Josh Satterley is the first one I heard of him from. He's a
Is that like the
CPA, but
simple numbers? Is he like an
yeah,
accountant? Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have
yeah,
his book behind me
exactly.
somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, great. And I had him on, paid to have him on a 2-hour training for our mastermind group, and he's not your typical post-mortem accountant where he's just doing your taxes. He's really planning businesses, and he's worked with many industries.
Yeah.
And he talked about this for a second, but I want to read yours first. But that's why I picked it. And what you said was, quote, almost everyone wants more money. Almost no one is willing to work harder and spend less. Um, I really like that. And one of the things he said, he's seeing it across a lot of industries. Employees are wanting more money, but they're not wanting to perform anymore. And frankly, they're wanting to perform less. And they obviously, there's people that are having uh, spending problems in their personal lives. And so they're coming, and some of that's inflation, and we'll get to inflation in a minute, but it's also they're not disciplined in their spending. And so they're just wanting more money for the sake of more money, but they're not willing to perform or sacrifice to do that in a lot of ways. What are some of your thoughts on why you posted that and what you're seeing
Yeah,
around
I
that?
I I I wish now that I knew what the thing was that was like, sometimes I hear something similar, and I was like, "Oh, let me see." I'll, like, take a little note in my phone, and then, like, I wanna write something about this, like that Contra one, I think that you'll talk about soon.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Um, but, yeah, like, I f I'm a big, like, finance and, like, business finance piece. I think, like, that's where I do some of my best, work,
Hmm.
whether it's using debt to do things or making sure I could do what I need to do. Some people call me cheap. I think I'm just smart with my money,
Yep.
right? Like I do have a problem of not celebrating wins. So I don't spend a lot of money on myself on things. I'm not like a thing person. I don't like $10,000 watches or $100,000 cars. I can't drive a stick, just, in a car. So it's like, I'm pretty limited there. Um, but yeah, I think between, whether that's somebody at work, which like this, I know for sure it wasn't somebody coming to me and say, "Hey, Brian, I want to make more money and work less." But that's not to say that that certainly doesn't happen, right? Or more likely, it's listening to people say, "Man, like, man, you can't live in Charlotte without making more than like $150,000." It's like,
Hmm.
You certainly can,
Yeah.
and people that spend so much money, I do like 50 to 60% of the sales in the gym. And I kind of, even now, I still project what what people are, how people show up, what people drive, and if they come in and they look like they're driving a Toyota, I don't mind. And if they want to spend $500 to $1,000 a month in the gym because they see it's valuable, great. It's the people that come in with like $150 pants, $400 shoes. I don't know any fancy kind of gear, but I'll say Lululemon. That's like the fanciest stuff that I know. So let's say it's that. Right? And $150,000 car. I was like, well, I don't know. Like the cost is a little bit. And this is like a pre-diabetic guy that wants to lose 40 pounds, I try to be kind and polite, but I also need to tell this person the things that like nobody else is going to tell him.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to die soon and your kids are going to miss you. And I think if you stop spending so much money on this crap, quality, whatever you want to call it, maybe we can invest in something different. Or, so I think like those are the things. It's more from I wrote that more from like a spending and keeping up with the Joneses. There's another one that I probably wrote that you probably heard something similar to. It's like everybody keeps up with the Joneses, not realizing that the Joneses are broke. It's like the same,
Yeah.
kind of like the same idea. So it's like, I go pick up my daughter for practice and I'm in like shorts and a collared shirt. In 2020, we used to take walks all the time and I'd be in sweatpants and a collared shirt. And one day I came and picked her up from work in like slacks and a polo. She's like, "You got dressed up today."
Mm.
And all these other guys were here from work in like suits or shirts and ties. I was like, Lila, like, keep it quiet. Like, don't embarrass me. And, but that's just how I've always kind of been. So I kind of feel bad for people that feel like they need to do something outwardly. I drove in 2020. I had a 2019 Hyundai.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, 2009, 2009 in 2020. And the only reason why I bought a car then was because everybody was saying, "Hey, like people are giving away cars." So I bought a used Lincoln for pretty cheap, and that was like the most expensive car I ever had. And realized everybody's like, "Oh man, it must be nice. Brian must be making all." I was like,
Mm.
you. You're driving. You're like upside down in a Cadillac,
Yeah.
and I paid $21,000 for a $40,000 Lincoln,
Yeah.
and I was driving a car that was 11 years old.
You
You
put your
know?
dues in.
Yeah. So I think like that's. I think it's more the spending thing. Or like whenever I speak to somebody, like, oh man, like this is so expensive. Like,
Yeah, and I'm gonna tie it into the previous one, right? So I'm gonna reread this one. Almost everyone wants more money. Almost no one is willing to work harder and spend less. And then going back to the other one, if you want a life where you get to do what you want every day, you'll need to live a life doing a lot of things you don't want to do. And that could be if you want to live that life, you get to do what you want, you need to do what a lot of things that you don't want to do, which could be not overspend money and be conservative in your spending. Because what happens a lot of times, people get pigeonholed into the rat race of trying to make X amount of money to fulfill a life that they've overspent on, because they never were able to to really rein that in, and so now they don't have that freedom to take a leap of faith, maybe, right?
yeah, I
Uh,
mean, I talked to a lot of people. Yeah, for sure. I talked to a lot of people that have good jobs in banking down here,
yeah.
and they are miserable. And we'll sit down and like, oh, maybe you could do this. Like, nah, here.
Mhm.
What do you mean you can't go from making $175,000 to 110 or 90 for a little
Yeah.
bit?
Nope.
Like, can't drop 80. Yeah, they just get accustomed to this job and they get stuck with the debt or
Yep.
golden handcuffs, as they call it. Right. It's like, man, I feel so bad for some of these people,
Yep.
that
Oh, yeah.
just like like, I don't look at retirement as like an end game. It's like, I want to keep playing this until I die. I'd like to work less and have other things make me some money, but like I still like being active and feeling productive.
Yeah.
So, but then the other people are like, oh, you only live once. Like, oh yeah, but and one thing in regards to this that I think a lot of people don't like to talk about money
Yeah.
because it's like taboo. I don't. I'll talk about it with whoever wants to talk about it.
Mhm.
Whether you have a ton of it and you're teaching me something, or you got none of it and we could help you out. But when they say, "Oh, like, it's not all about the money," Chris Cooper, who, runs Cuban that you mentioned before, he said something that kinda really that resonated. I don't know, I'll butcher it, but something along the lines, and this is what I say to people now. It's like, it's not about the money, right? Like, you make the impact and the money will come. But if I asked you, like, who do you like, if money wasn't an object, who would you like to help? And you're like, "Oh, I love dogs, I love foster kids, I love whatever." It's like, you think you'd help more or less people with money? And you're like, "More." Okay, then why wouldn't you wanna make more? And then you could help the people that you just said that you wanted to help more of. Or if you wanna give away or you wanna do something for free, it's like, yeah, I could do these things with more money. I can't take care of a friend that needs something or buy something for somebody that needs something or pay for somebody's tires if they need it or treat a group of people out to dinner if they needed it. Like me, myself, I'm looking at the menu and hoping that when we split the check, I only have to pay for my $17 when somebody else got a $50 steak. And now I'm like, man, why
Mhm.
am I paying for your meal too?
Yeah.
Right? Like you just don't have those opportunities. So it's not about the money, but it's like if you could help more people with it,
Mhm.
then
Yeah, and it gives you financial peace of mind, which then allows you to have kind of a better state of being when you do show up to work and you're not stressed out about it, right? You're able.
one less thing to be. There's a plenty of things to be worried about.
Yeah.
One less thing to put a little bit of a buffer. And it's like if I have like a 1 year, a 1 month
Mhm.
rainy day fund, or a 3 month, or a 6 month, or 3 years, like the bigger that buffer gets, the more comfortable
Yeah.
I
And
think you'll
it's
be.
different. You get on one end of the spectrum, you could have the practice owner that again is bringing in plenty of money but overspending. That could be a situation. Or you got the new associate who um maybe isn't making a ton, but they're 27 years old. Like they can obviously, they need to just probably grapple with. Yeah, you know what? This is an early phase of my career. This isn't a money making venture right now in my 20s. I think we lived the typical good trajectory, which, our 20s was about growth of education and learning how to practice and do all that. It wasn't a money making venture. We were able to grind it out and make just enough to live and do okay, but then, start to set a good platform in our 30s and really start to make hay in our 40s. Like that's kind of how it works.
Yeah,
And I
it's
think
not
it
to
goes,
say that, like, when I was first out of school and I got my first paycheck that wasn't from Sally Mae, like,
yeah,
I didn't go blow it, and the next one, and
exactly.
the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and all
Yeah.
my money from Sally Mae was spent at the Harris Casino in St. Louis, so
Yeah.
it wasn't like I was always I knew it wasn't the best use of my money,
Yeah.
but it's different when you're in your 20s and you're like, "Oh, I've got a lot longer now that I want to hit maybe 30 or have my daughter when I was 33." It's like, "Okay, now
Yeah.
I gotta at least put a roof over somebody's head."
Yeah. And so sometimes it's your relationship with the money that's
Yeah.
going to be where it's at. It's not about the actual money. And so I love that one. Let's take a break from today's episode and announce our first sponsor. This is going to be Propel Marketing and Design. I've known Darcy Sullivan for years. We've worked hand in hand on my websites. I don't trust anybody else to do the search engine optimization. She does a great job. There's so much to it. A lot of the lingo and the words are beyond my comprehension, but it's just amazing work that she does. And if you're really going to get results with Google, you have to make sure your website is SEO optimized. And I really don't want you doing it yourself as a chiropractor. So you just have to have this type of stuff done. And if you're looking to get more organic online traffic that pulls in new patients, Propel Marketing and Design is currently offering chiropractors who listen to this podcast a free SEO website review. The free review will help you uncover methods that will improve your website and boost your search engine visibility. Head over to propelyourcompany.com/chiropractor and schedule your free SEO website review. You won't regret it. She gets great results. Your website needs this. Your search results need this. Head on over there to propelyourcompany.com/chiropractor to get your free SEO website review. We're going to move on to the next one. It kind of helps with this because a lot of people are impacted, and I really like this one. But it's quote, relationship capital is not impacted by inflation. Treat it carefully. That's a pretty powerful one in a short period there. What are some of your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm glad you picked that one because, I mean, obviously people are talking about inflation and your money and stuff like that, but I'm from New York, right? So automatically people think like you're mean and abrasive and whatever. But I tell people that, like, there's a difference between being nice and being kind,
Mhm.
right? Nice people's just bullshitting you. The kind person is like when the guy comes to my gym and is like, and I say, listen, nobody's ever told you this before because they don't want you to be upset with him, but that's not my job. My job is to get you to realize that this is a serious problem you need to take care of. So I think most people, even if they don't like what they hear, will at the end of the day be like, I needed to hear that. And I try not to burn bridges, not to say that I haven't done stupid things in the past, but I do my best to, like, not burn any bridges in the future and keep some of these relationships kind of going. And I feel like those things put you in position to get lucky from like a
Yep.
business perspective or a money perspective. If you wanted to do an investment and like you need $100,000, like it's easier to get it from somebody that likes you because you're good and you show that you're a good steward of money, and you're a good person, you're kind, and you care, and all those things versus like you're not.
Yep.
And I think from a relationship perspective, from like if you lead in your business from like more with the carrot than with the stick, right? And I'm like, and I think that's the same way. Like if people like working with you and you're kind to them, then people will stay.
Yep.
And some people be like, oh yeah, Brian, he's probably terrible to work with. Meanwhile, 80% of my team has been with us from like 6 to 12 years. So if I
Mhm.
was such an asshole, it's not like I'm paying him $500,000 to stay,
Yep.
you know? If I was such an asshole, you would have gone someplace else.
Mhm.
Um, but also like the cost of running a business is also you have to stick to your principles or your, if you have a cancellation policy, like this is what it is. If you have this policy, this is what it is. It's like, oh, why are you being like that? I was like, not being like anything. Like you, this is what you write. So I think there's like that. The people that know me know who I am, and other people will make a choice to say one thing or the other. But I think it comes down to those relationships, and even the ones that you just kind of touch base with every quarter. Doesn't have
Yeah.
to be best friends that we see all the time. Like I'm in a few different mastermind groups that we might meet quarterly. I might not talk to those people except for those 70 hours that we've got. And they're some of the best people that I know, but I maybe talk to them like 20 days a year
Yeah.
based on
But
those,
it's
and they would do anything for me and vice versa based on the relationships that we've kind of built.
Yeah, and one of the things I thought about this for myself was it was two stories. One, my dad's been in sales since the early '70s and heavy equipment, like all the wire ropes and teeth and buckets for all that down here in South Florida. And he's not a salesy type of guy, but one thing that he was taught early on by his sales manager was that he wasn't in the business of sales; he was in the business of relationship building. The sales will follow, and he's done well with that over the years, and that's something that I took to heart when I was building my practice. We're building MCM was is not, not being a salesman per se. There's sales, and you got to have that, but really being a business of relationships, because then that will sustain itself long term. And that leads to my second point around it was that when you do build good relationships, like I did a good job in my community and my patient base with relationship building, that it allowed me to go from an in-network practice to an out-of-network practice and higher cash rates, and I didn't lose a ton of patients. We lost some, but the relationships were there, and that kinda goes to your point. It's not impacted by inflation. If I decide to raise my rates, which I'm going to be doing soon, it's not gonna impact that because you've built strong relationships with your patients or clients or community, however it may be, and I think that's just very impactful for people to realize.
Yeah. And it's like, my, finish on this, like when I go around here, you know, my daughter thinks I'm famous because everywhere we go, people know. I mean, I was at a beach in Sunset Beach, North Carolina. I walked on the beach. And it was like, Brian? And it's like somebody from the gym or somebody from somewhere else. So it's like they know me from somewhere. And for the most part, I like to kind of be pretty private. So she's like, yeah, everywhere you go, you always know somebody. So I'd like to think like also like if I was unpleasant,
Mhm.
people, because I'm shy at heart. If I see somebody I know out that I kind of know, I'm not going to be like, oh my God, Kevin, I can't believe we're at the same place. I will try to make myself so you don't see me, so we don't have that awkward comment. Like I don't know what to
Yeah.
say, right? So I'd like to think that part of that's a show of like I could create good relationships and keep them to the same way in the gym. I do a lot of those sales, and it's much more relationship driven than people do business with who they think cares about them, and that's kind of how we run our stuff.
Yeah, and they don't feel like they're being sold to, which is
Sure.
the
Yeah.
holy grail. So,
Yeah.
all right, let's put a cap on this. As a fellow Gen Xer, we came up with the age of Nintendo, which was the best video game console ever. You had a couple
Crazy.
different a couple different posts how you were relating video games to business, and the two video games. Again, our millennial crowd here may not have never heard of them, but one was Contra, which was probably my favorite game aside from Tecmo Bowl. But
That's
Contra,
what I was gonna say.
Contra, yeah, Tecmo Bowl is probably everybody's
Yeah.
favorite.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Contra was high up there, and then two was Tetris. What's your relationship between business and Tetris and business and Contra?
I can't remember the exact posts, right? But I think in the Tetris one I wrote more recently was just kind of things about looking at like just I was thinking about how they were related. And I think in Tetris was like looking ahead and being prepared versus just like letting like just working the business head down and you can't like see ahead to make any decisions. I think something else in that Tetris was about just like chaos and problems and like being able to like not freak out like, oh shit, I put this space in the wrong spot and now I'm screwed. And then I just like die on purpose. You know those people,
Oh yeah,
right?
yep.
So they throw their They throw their controller over across the wall to the other side, and so it's like being able to like be like calm under pressure, right?
Mhm.
Uh, uh, and then also not also going for the home run. Like I feel like back to the Instagram and TikTok, it's like you only see the home runs. You don't see like singles and doubles and singles and doubles in business because like nobody freaking cares. Like if I sold 2 memberships today, nobody cares. If somebody came in and paid me $1,400 or $1,700 for a membership a month, like if I just posted those, the people would. So it's like that kind of stuff, and in general business, like the day to day monotony is the important part.
Mhm.
So it's like just be patient, do this, singles, doubles, one line, two line. Every once in a while, well, I get Tetris, but I can't wait
Yeah,
for that red. I can't wait for that red bar down the middle. Otherwise, I'm gonna be, you know,
that's great. Yeah, you wrote how Tetris teaches uh, entrepreneurship. One, expect mistakes. And there's a little bit of paragraphs from there, but we'll skip that. Two, there was
yeah,
no perfect piece. That's for sure. Three, always look ahead. And then four, be flexible. So it really makes sense. And you got a cool old school picture of Tetris, which I like, but that really does sum up Tetris and entrepreneurship.
I'm sure. What were the? I think it was. I know. I remember the cheat codes. I wrote something about there in the cheat code. What were the topics that I
Well,
probably
that was
listed like 5 things?
yeah, that was under the Tetris one. And then I've come to realize that life and entrepreneurship is a lot like a game of Contra. You'll find some cool tools to help you, but they won't last forever. So you need to really be solid on the basics. Your feelings of invincibility only last for seconds. You feel like the current level you're at is impossible and there's no way to get it through it. You think that the only people that pass the level must have some secret that they aren't willing to share. You're relieved when you finally get to the next level, only realize it's 10x more difficult than the prior level. Your mindset
Yeah.
on the people you surround yourself with is the cheat code you need to win the game. Up, up, down, 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 left, right, A, B, select, start. A lot of people your age and my age will actually remember that cheat code from
It's
heart, and that
wild.
gave
Like
you
I don't know what I
crazy
had
what
for dinner last night, but I remember that from 35 years ago. Yeah,
exact
and you know what's weird? Uh, uh, I woke up one morning and I'm not sure how I wrote it that morning, and I was like, I don't know if I'd heard something about it, but yeah, I rather you think from those pieces, the invincibility piece we kind of touched on at the very beginning. It's I think every day is hard, and I don't have too
Yep.
many days in a row that like something's not like I don't want to just burn the whole thing down and go live in a hole somewhere,
Yeah.
right? So it's like I'll have a good day or a good month, and like this month was okay, and trying to not get too high with the highs or too low with the lows. So I just remember that like invincibility one when you kind of run, and same thing in Mario Brothers, right? You kind of run
Yep.
in and or Pac-Man, right? The ghost turns purple right before you're about to eat him, and then you die. Uh, um, the other one was like the tools, right? I remember like spread gun and laser gun. Like,
Oh
man,
yeah, spread gun was the best.
I'm gonna murder people with this thing, and then you lose it. Back to that, like one little at a time, little white little bullet.
Yeah.
And so like being able to like be agile there and being able to hide and get around and be smart and be patient because I can't just like go in with reckless abandon with a spread gun and blasting people. Right. So the same thing in work. I think especially even more so in like the doctor's office, you know, there's all these tools like when we graduate, it's like, all right, you got your hands.
Yeah.
And that's it. Now it's like I got this thumper and that thumper and needles and other needles and these instruments and those instruments. And he's like, "Oh, yeah, the practice is struggling. I think I'm gonna start doing dry needling."
Mhm.
Or, "The gym is struggling. I think I'm gonna not be called CrossFit anymore." Whatever. It's like, "Nah, I don't think either of those things are really gonna matter." Right? So, like, one of those basic things, and probably creating relationships, creating a market, and selling the market are like the creating an audience and sales, like the 2 important things. You can right, you know people that are like the greatest adjusters, but they can't get a person in the door.
Yes, I wanna again go back to the one here, if you want a life where you get to do what you want every day, so let's just sum that up as, like, you're struggling in practice and you wanna have a successful practice, you'll need to live a life doing a lot of things you don't want to do. And I think a lot of chiropractors in their heart of hearts know that if whether they're an associate and they're not producing as they should to hit bonus, or they're an owner and they're having cash flow issues, there's probably a lot of things in your heart of heart that you need to be doing to then be able to have or do the things you want. And again, the have doesn't mean you have to have things, but it may be I need some more free time. I need some peace of mind. I need a team member. I need to pay for groceries, like whatever it is. You gotta like just be honest with yourself and say, are you doing all the things that you should be doing? And
Yeah,
that's what's
I
gonna get you there.
I'll never forget. And like now people look at you now, right? Or maybe some people look at me like, oh, Brian, you're telling me to do this, but you don't do this anymore. So I think you get to a point where like, whether your relationships or social or referrals, like
Yeah.
I remember when we moved to a state, I didn't know nobody. We opened up this
Yeah.
office and the guy's like, well, you should go knock on doors. I'm like, knock on doors? No.
Yeah.
And I would knock on doors praying to the gods of gods that these people wouldn't answer. I'd knock so light, maybe they would say like, yes, I knocked on doors, but I guess they didn't hear it or they weren't home. And some people are like, oh, hey, my name is Brian. I'm a new chiropractor. I worked down the block. I just moved here. And I hated it. And I don't know if I ever got anybody from it. And, but it was that act. And
Mhm.
Andy Frisella talks about when he first started in St. Louis, he would go to Deerberg's or not Harris. Did you go to Deerberg's or
Snooks.
Schnucks?
Yeah.
Yep. And he goes, every day I would go and I had to talk to 3 people and not like, hey, do you like black beans or pinto beans?
Mm.
But, and not how you doing today? Good. And you pass by with your wagon, but like have 3 conversations because it scared the shit out of me,
Yeah.
and like that was his way to start selling, whatever products he had, so it's like, he doesn't have to do that anymore.
Correct.
Right. You might not have to do that anymore. Well, when you're starting, I told you, I was like, hey, maybe you should kind of, but also like the argument can be made, like maybe you should still be doing
Mhm.
something different to get you to like in that Contra thing where it's like, oh, you get to this room and they were doing these other things. Like now he's just doing something different instead of going to Dearborn and Schnucks where you're talking to one person who's uncomfortable. Now he's doing something that's more uncomfortable to talk to. I don't really love doing podcasts and talking in front of people.
Yeah.
Right. I was always the kid that was sick when I had to present and had to go to the bathroom and I had to get in front of the classroom. Um, because I'm not comfortable doing that.
Mhm.
Right. But like talking on stage to people or doing podcasts is like the next difficult thing or the next test that I need to be able to do to like, when you get to that next level in Contra and it's like, what are these people doing? Like they're doing more difficult stuff.
Yeah.
Not knocking on the door. Knocking on the door is like step 1. And then it's the next one, right? Like those people that keep moving forward and are never satisfied are just doing a difficult thing like you can't even comprehend right now
Mhm.
because you're just not there yet. And there's people that are like light years ahead of me that are doing things I'm like,
Yeah.
hope I never get to that level because I'm not sure I can do it. And then you get there, you're like, well, shit. I guess I gotta do
You
it.
bet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's always worse in my head.
Well, Brian, this has been a pleasure, and maybe we'll have a round 2 and 10 more Facebook posts after this that I like, and
Yeah,
we'll
sure.
dive into
Try.
those. Hopefully, we get to run into each other in person some point.
Yeah.
But this has been great, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate it.
I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. And if you want to make the shift from busy, broke, and broken to time-free and cash confident, or you just want to continue with the exponential growth, check us out at modernchiropracticmarketing.com. Look at the MCM Mastery tab, watch the short video on there, and check out what we are doing now for evidence-informed chiropractors. We are equal parts coaching and marketing done for you. Yes, you shoot some videos, we help you with campaign strategies and ideas and really become a thought leader in your community. You shoot those videos, you send them to us, we produce, edit, and brand them to you. Then we distribute them through all of your channels. We also take them and we turn it into one good blog per month. And every other month, we have Darcy Sullivan producing a robust blog with a topic that you pick from her database to help with your SEO. So we essentially become your content marketing agency to make sure your practice is always having ethical, elegant content marketing to help grow your practice. On the coaching side, we also help you with everything from marketing ideas to business, communications, finances, anything practice growth, and really try to help prevent you from being stuck on that island. And we hold you accountable. We have a great group of doctors that are just doing amazing things, and we look forward to help you out to take that next step in your practice. So again, check us out at modernchiropracticmarketing.com and learn more.